In the mid-17th century, the Mughal Empire was an absolute titan of military and economic might, and its ultimate power radiated outward from the heavily fortified center of Agra. Into this imperial nerve center walked Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, a Maratha king and relentless political disruptor who had been invited to the royal court. But the diplomacy shattered almost immediately. Emperor Aurangzeb deliberately slighted Shivaji, assigning him a much lower rank in the court than protocol demanded. Shivaji refused to bow. Instead, he erupted in a fiery public protest right in front of the emperor. The consequences were swift. Aurangzeb stripped Shivaji of his freedom, confining him to a compound deep within the city limits under strict house arrest. Shivaji was now a high-stakes hostage, trapped squarely in the center of the empire he had spent years defying. To understand the sheer scale of the trap, we have to look at the geography. This map shows the Indian subcontinent at the time. Agra is isolated in the north, hundreds of miles away from Shivaji's stronghold in the Deccan, and the entire route between them is saturated with hostile Mughal forces. Zooming in on his immediate surroundings, the local security was airtight. Thousands of heavily armed guards formed overlapping patrol rings around Shivaji's specific compound, maintaining a rigid 24-hour watch. He faced a brutal binary choice. Launching a physical fight meant certain death against overwhelmingly superior numbers, but submitting meant Aurangzeb would completely annex his kingdom. Since physical force offered no path to survival, the only way out was to exploit the psychological weaknesses of the security apparatus. The plan began with a calculated performance. Shivaji feigned a sudden, severe illness, acting completely bedridden and weak. This immediately neutralized the guards' adrenaline. A severely sick man is not a flight risk, which instantly diffused the Mughal expectation of a violent armed breakout. With the immediate threat level lowered, Shivaji established a new routine, claiming he needed to pray for his recovery. He began ordering massive, heavy baskets of traditional sweets, mithai, to be carried out of his compound daily for distribution to local temples and the poor. At first, the guards were highly suspicious. They stopped every heavy basket leaving the compound, aggressively rummaging through the sweets to check for hidden weapons or contraband. This daily performance of charity established a predictable, harmless pattern designed to condition his captors and lower their guard. He was exploiting a vulnerability known as security fatigue. Looking at this graph of guard alertness over a period of weeks, the effect of the sweet deliveries becomes obvious. Day after day, the guards lifted the exact same baskets, found the exact same sweets, and cleared the exact same porters. The uneventful repetition lulled the guards into deep complacency, and their alertness plummeted to near zero. Then came the day of the escape. Instead of loading the baskets with sweets, Shivaji and his son climbed inside two of the massive containers, curling up tight. To buy crucial time, a highly loyal confidant lay down in Shivaji's bed, wearing the king's clothes. He left just a single arm visible from under the blankets, perfectly mimicking the sleeping Maratha leader, to trick any peering guards. The porters picked up the heavy loads and walked straight toward the gates. Because the guards were utterly bored by the routine, they barely glanced at the cargo. They waved the porters right through, allowing Shivaji to literally be carried out the front door. By weaponizing the guards' own boredom, Shivaji turned a rigid security protocol into the very tool used to bypass it. It took hours for the Mughal guards to realize the man in the bed was a decoy. When the news finally reached Aurangzeb, his reaction was one of explosive, boiling humiliation. Meanwhile, Shivaji was already embarking on a grueling undercover journey. Disguised, he traversed hundreds of miles of hostile territory, eventually reaching the harsh, rugged safety of his home terrain in the Deccan. Upon returning, he cemented his ultimate political triumph. He officially crowned himself Chhatrapati, declaring his realm a fully independent sovereign state. The escape and subsequent return to the Deccan shattered the carefully maintained myth of Mughal invincibility. The political fallout lasted for decades. Aurangzeb could not let the embarrassment go, developing a ruinous obsession with avenging this specific humiliation. He dragged the vast Mughal military apparatus south, plunging his forces into an endless, unwinnable war of attrition against the Marathas. This obsessive campaign drained the imperial coffers. Over the years, it bankrupted the treasury and fatally fractured the empire's internal infrastructure, sparking the long decline of Mughal power. Aurangzeb possessed overwhelming military might, yet the escape proved that absolute power creates its own blind spots, weaknesses that a tactical mind can turn into a path to victory.